everyone. Let me get cozy here. It's going to be a long one, I think, today. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna and welcome to apt.atelier, which is my YouTube channel where I talk mostly about knitting, although we have some other crafts to talk about today, and yarn related things. And in today's video, I'm just going to talk you through what I worked on in August and a little bit about what I plan to work on in September as we're coming into fall, and then a little bit about a knit along that I'm going to be hosting for the second time this year. This is the second year I will be hosting it, and I'm really excited about it, and it's something that I feel like is a really good thing to do as we're preparing for fall. So stay tuned to hear more about that. But for now, we can talk about some end of summer finished objects, and yeah, that's where we'll start. So my first finished object, which I was almost done with the last time I spoke to you, is my Tied Loops tee, which is a beautiful pattern from Other Loops, a Danish knitwear designer, and I knit this in Elsbeth Lavold Silky Wool, which is a silk, wool, and nylon blend. This is the unbleached colorway. And I love this top. It's got the most beautiful texture on it. This beautiful wave texture on the body and the arms. I knit the size small, the second size. So it's not quite as oversized on me as it is in the pattern photos. I think I probably would have been better off knitting a medium, but I had a limited amount of yarn in my stash, 250 grams, and I wanted to use this yarn for this project. And honestly, I think it ended up pretty well. The only thing that I had to change from the pattern for yardage purposes was the length. It's maybe 3 or 4 centimeters shorter than the pattern intends. And then all of the facing. So the finish on this pattern is these beautiful folded hems everywhere. And I made trying to talk too fast. I made the facings a little bit shorter than the pattern recommends, just by like a round or two to conserve a little bit of yarn. And then as you can see on the sleeves, I did kind of run out of yarn when I was knitting the facings. So I just knit them down with a different yarn. And it's not super noticeable. I think when I'm wearing it, you can maybe see it on the back side of my sleeves, but it's not something that is super noticeable at all. I did finish this in time for Flock Fiber Festival, and everyone was really nice about it. I finished it, I want to say, I cast the sleeve off the second sleeve off that morning, the facing, and then I just gave it a good steam and wore it to the festival. And I've since wet blocked it, but yeah, it's very cute, and I like the fit a lot. I like that it's a little bit closer fitting. I don't think it needed to be any more oversized on my frame. And I think it's very cute, and I'm looking forward to continuing to style it. Sorry, there's a hair stuck on it that's driving me nuts. I am looking forward to continuing to style it for fall. I think it'll be a good layering piece. This texture never really, it's not necessarily summer to me because I live in Seattle and like fairly close to the ocean. I don't associate the beach with summertime. It's like an all year round thing for me now. So this doesn't feel particularly summery to me. I think the darker, moodier color helps with that. But yeah, overall, I was really pleased with this. I was able to make the sleeves the full chart length, which is 4 pattern repeats. So I really like where they hit on my body, and overall, I just think this turned out really cute. And I like the pattern. It was definitely kind of a marathon. This is the 3rd fingering weight shirt that I've knit this year. And I was pretty tired of it by the end, especially because you have to look, this whole pattern, body pattern is charted. There's like 2 repeats for the body. That's another thing I did. My row gauge was a little bit off on this, so I did 2 chart repeats on the body and then 2 additional pattern repeats. So another half of a repeat on the bottom to add a little bit more length. That's different from the pattern. But I'm happy with it. I think it's very pretty. It's very elegant. It's not something that you would find in a store really, but it like has the polish and finesse of something that you could find in a store. So I'm really proud of it. I feel like this is the pièce de résistance of my summery knits, and I'm happy that it's done because I'm ready now that the weather is starting to cool down. It's gloomy today and I love it. Now that the weather is starting to calm down, I'm ready to cool down. I'm ready to work on some more woolly wintry knits. Not that this isn't woolly, this is like 40% wool, but still I'm ready to work on something a little bit more fall. Speaking of which, I'll just tell you what I'm wearing really quickly. This is my coming soon sweater, which is a pattern by Paula Strict. I knit this in the summer of 2021. And there's definitely some things about it that are not perfect. This is maybe the 4th or 5th sweater that I knit, but it's probably the oldest sweater that I have that I wear still frequently. My first couple of sweaters I don't really wear very often for a multitude of reasons, mostly because I didn't really know much about gauge. I wasn't great at matching fibers to patterns. And the fit of those first couple of sweaters isn't like exactly what I love, but I do really like this sweater. And I still didn't really understand gauge at the time because my gauge was definitely off. The yoke on this is way deeper than it's meant to be. And the sleeves turned out way longer than they're meant to be. But I still really like this. It's also a lot more cropped in the body, I think, than it's intended. But I do really like this sweater a lot. It's knit with the purple. The main color is 100% wool. I think it's from an unraveled sweater that I got from the thrift store. And actually, I don't even know if I've talked about this in a long time, but I first knit this sweater with one strand of that yarn, which is like a DK or a worsted weight, and one strand of mohair, which is kind of a silvery color. I'll come up close so you can see the color of the yarn. But the mohair is kind of a silvery colored mohair. And I got it from a yarn store that was closing down online. It's the African Expressions Love mohair, so it's not super available in the US since this online store closed down. It's a South African yarn, but I originally held it with a purple strand of this probably like DK or worsted weight yarn, and I knit the whole yoke, and I was like, I'm gonna run out of yarn. So I had to rip it all back, and then I decided that instead of like getting new yarn or just like giving up on the project, it was a 2-ply yarn, and I unplied the yarn. So this is basically knit with a fingering and a mohair, but I had to like unply this purple yarn to get the appropriate gauge and like have enough yarn for the project. And I do still have some of the yarn left over, so it worked out, but it was kind of a tedious process. I really like the sleeves on this sweater. This is one I've seen a few other sweaters that have this design feature, but you basically knit straight for most of the sleeve and then do this decrease in a way that kind of creates this triangular shape. See if I can, I'll see if I can show you. If you can kind of see here on the sleeve. Yeah, a little bit. There's like a strip here, and then the decreases are on either side of it. So it creates kind of an interesting shape. And then I ended up putting elastic in the cuffs of this sweater because I wanted it to be able to be reversible. So this is knit in like a half fisherman's rib, but the outside, like the puffier side, is meant to be the outside. So if you look at the inside of the fabric, it's like your traditional half fisherman's rib. So I wanted the sweater to be able to be reversible, which is why I knit the cuffs double long and folded them under. But because I sewed them down, you can like see where they're sewed down. So I've actually never worn it the other way around. But it makes it so that I can have elastic in the sleeves, which I really like because they're a little bit long. I mean, I didn't know that half fisherman's rib was going to grow as much as this sweater did at the time, just because I wasn't as experienced of a knitter. And they're not too long, but the elastic definitely helps make it more manageable so that it's not, and I like the volume that it kind of gives at the bottom of the sleeve. So yeah, overall I do really like this sweater, and this is definitely the sweater that I've knit the furthest in the past that I do regularly still wear. I really like the wide raglan lines with these cool increases, like little eyelets. The only thing I don't love about this is that there are no short rows in this sweater, so it does have a tendency to ride up in the back. It's not as much that it's too short in the front, it's that it's because it's cropped. I feel like it's riding up in the back. But yes, otherwise, I really like this sweater. I think it's originally knit for just like a single strand of wool, but it was in my experimentation era. So yes, this is that. Okay, finished object number 2. I will show you this one next. This is my finished, but not really finished. This is my Frankie sweater, which is a sweater from Sennis Garn, a pattern from Sennis Garn. And I knit this in Hobbii Friends wool in the color Emerald, which was kindly gifted to me. So the yarn was given to me for free to test. And I like the yarn a lot, and I like the sweater. The only thing is that I've knit it, it's too short in the body. I want it to be a little bit longer. And I haven't fully wet blocked this, you can see, because if you can see that, this looks kind of wonky because I knit the one sleeve and then I wet blocked it and it grew really long. And so I knit the second sleeve to a better length, and then I cut this giant twisted ribbing off, because the design feature of this sweater is that it has really long twisted rib cuffs on the body and on the sleeves. And I just, quite frankly, don't want to reknit 18 centimeters of twisted rib. So I cut the hem off, pulled back, and then Kitchener stitched it back on. And I filmed a tutorial of how I do that, and I will share that later this month, kind of along the theme of the knit along that we're going to do, that I'll talk about in a little bit. But just so you know, if you're interested in how I do that, there is a tutorial coming soon. But yes, other than that, I like it and it fits. So okay, trying to think what I want to say about this sweater. I like the fit of it. I just want it to be a little bit longer in the body. I knit the ribbing. I have this thing where I really like for the body ribbing and the sleeve ribbing to be the same length. And in the pattern, the body ribbing was a little bit longer than the sleeve ribbing, not by much, but I wanted them to match. And so I was going to originally take 5 centimeters off the ribbing in the body, and I just added that to the stockinette section under the arms. So I made this section, this stockinette section, longer, and then I knit the body ribbing actually longer than I intended it to be, than I originally thought it was going to be. So it's the same 18 centimeters as the sleeves, but the sweater still hits me in a place that I just don't think is the most flattering. I wish it was about maybe 1.5 inches longer. They were Kinross 4-ply, but they're actually JC Rennie. Upon further inspection, they are from JC Rennie, and there's a bunch of different colors, but I'm going to use those to make the Paul Klee sweater. And I have a bunch of different, like, kind of earthy tones like these that I'm going to use, and the gray will be the main color. And I have 10 colors of this, and I think for the Paul Klee sweater I need 14 or 16 colors of yarn. So I was digging through my stash to try and find some yarns that would work, and I don't have a ton of fingering weight scraps. I have this kind of cool blue that would work. I have this dark gray, which I probably won't use because it's kind of close to this, but I was digging around, and then I went to an estate sale a couple weekends ago, and I found these, which are needlepoint wool. They're tapestry yarn. So they're meant for like needlepoint or sewing, but they're 100% wool. And so I got 2 of each of 4 colors of the yarn, and I'm going to use these in that sweater as well. So I'm not sure what my like full color story is going to be for that sweater, but I just have a couple more options of colors to put in there, and I thought these were super pretty. She had a ton more at the sale, but this is what I restrained myself and ended up with. So that's kind of a Flock Fiber purchase and some plans of what I'm going to do with it. My other purchase at Flock Fiber Festival was some fiber. This is from Skagit Woolen Works, I want to say. This is a Jacob and Icelandic cross ball of roving, because I've been very inspired by all of the spinners I've been seeing lately. A lot of people are picking up drop spindling, and I was also influenced. So mostly influenced by Laura from Penrose Knits and by Anna from Brook Willow Knits. And my mom came down for Flock Fiber Festival, came up. She lives in California, so she flew up to Washington to see me. And I asked her if she could bring me a drop spindle because I had one when I was a little kid, and I don't know if it was probably hers. But I have a distinct memory of she had this craft room at our old house in Texas where I grew up. And she had this craft room that had all sorts of stuff in it, but I distinctly have an image in my mind of a drop spindle with this like kind of purple roving on it that was maybe similar color to this. And I feel like I did some spinning on it, but I could be delusional and did not do any spinning on it. But I knew she had a drop spindle, and I thought that maybe I had one at one point, but anyway, I knew she had a drop spindle. And she has a couple. My mom has a couple. I think she has one or two other ones. So I asked her to bring me one, and she did. She brought me this one, which I don't think is the one that I remember from growing up, but this is made in Holland. It's by the brand Loué. This is what the bottom looks like. It's got these little sheepies on it. I'm sure she bought this when we lived overseas. It's very cute, and it's a bottom whirl drop spindle, which I don't see very often unless it's a Turkish drop spindle. I feel like most people's drop spindles have the hook at the top and you use them like this, but this one is bottom whirl. And I like hyper fixated on spinning for a few weeks, and I have spun up half of this fiber. So I bought 2 ounces of this Skagit Woolen Works gray Icelandic Jacob cross, and I spun up 1 gram of it. And then I got in my mind, I was like, oh, I actually really want to marl this, because I had just finished knitting this up and I really liked the marled yarn, and I thought it would be fun to spin some marled yarn. So I spun up about half of this fiber, and then I ordered some other fiber on eBay from this really cute shop called Fiber Fate, or not eBay, from Etsy. This is what the shop, I had her business card somewhere and I don't know where it is, but I bought from Fiber Fate, which you can find her on Etsy, and I believe she also has an Instagram and a website. So I'll show that to you here as well, fiberfate.com and Fiberfate on Instagram. She had some Cheviot on sale, so I bought 2 ounces of the Cheviot, and I spun that up, and then I plied them together to get some yarn. And I was like so hyper fixated on this that I've already spun I spun half the Jacob Icelandic, I've spun half the Cheviot, and I've plied it together already. So these are my first little baby skeins. I'm really proud of them. I think for a first spinning attempt, this one needs to be washed still, but this one has been washed. For a very first spinning attempt, I'm very proud of it. I think it's pretty good. Like fairly even. I'm gonna open it up, or I'll do a close-up so you can see. It's not perfect by any means, but it's like I was able to spin my singles quite fine, and ply them all together, and I ended up with basically like a DK weight yarn, like a sports to a DK, which is pretty fine. And I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I think it's really pretty. I like the 2 colors together. It's pretty subtle of a marl. So I think from far away it'll just look like a light gray, but I like the way that it looks really a lot. So I just have this little bundle of yarn so far, but I made it with my own hands and it was so fun. And now I feel like I need to buy a spinning wheel because I really like it. I don't mind spinning on the drop spindle at all. I actually really enjoy it, but plying on the drop spindle was not very enjoyable. It was kind of a struggle for me, and I ended up having to do some trial and error and change things up and do things differently than I thought they needed to be done. But it worked in the end. I have usable, workable yarn that I will knit up. I think I'm gonna use it to make a hat for myself. I don't know how much this is. I need to measure. I did the wraps per inch test to figure out what weight it is, and it's like between a sport and a DK. But I don't know how much meterage I have, so I need to measure it out. It's like not particularly fluffy yarn, it's kind of dense. So I'm assuming if I spin up the other half of the fiber, that I'll have like 250-ish meters, which is more than enough for a hat for me. So that's my plan for those. I'm contemplating. I've definitely done some Facebook Marketplace browsing. If there are any of you out there who are spinners, let me know what wheels you like, because I'm probably just gonna do some researching and maybe some Christmas list asking. I don't know. I don't know if I need to maybe spin up the rest of my fiber and see how long that takes me before I decide to like invest a significant amount of money in continuing this hobby. Yeah, but I do like it a lot. So I'm really proud of my little yarn. And when I ordered this Cheviot from Fiber Fate, she also sent me some samples, which was so nice because they're like decently sizable samples, and the fiber was extremely cheap. I think she was like clearancing it out. It was $1 an ounce, so I didn't pay very much for it. But she sent me these pretty little samples. So the white here is a BFL, which is so incredibly soft. It's divine. And then this is a Shetland Morit, which is a beautiful color. So I may end up spinning these together and marling them too. So yeah, I now have a lot of fiber to spin. And I actually just finished plying this a couple days ago. So yeah, it's very fun. I would recommend it. I really like it. It was a very fun thing to do, and I will hopefully continue. It just scratches a different itch than knitting, which I feel like everyone says. But I really liked it. And I like this drop spindle a lot. And I feel like I was able to get pretty good gauged yarn on it. I know that the smaller the spindle is, like learned a few things about spinning. The smaller spindles usually allow you to spin finer yarn, but this is like fairly heavy and fairly large, and I feel like I was still able to get pretty fine yarn on it. Yeah, I'm really happy with the spindle. I don't feel like I want a different one or anything. So I'm just gonna keep spinning away. Maybe by next month I'll have the other half of this fiber spun. Maybe not, maybe I'll have moved on from it. But anyway, that was my other project that I worked on for a lot of time this month. And that I found very fun. So stay tuned to see what the yarn becomes, because I don't want it to just sit forever. I want to use it. Okay, mostly finished up everything I was working on this month, but I do have one more work in progress that I will show you really quickly. These are my LOL shorts, or shorts LOL from Pasculi Knit Design. And I'm knitting these in the Hobbii cotton bamboo. Now I don't remember what it's called. It is a cotton and bamboo blend. It's not called cotton bamboo. I think it's called rainbow bamboo. And it's a fingering weight bamboo cotton blend. It's a beautiful yarn. I really like it a lot. It's very drapey. It does shed a little bit. I was wearing a black dress the other day and knitting with this, and it kind of got fiber all down my dress. But I'm wondering if that will stop when it's been blocked. But I like the fabric that it's making a lot. It's very silky. It's very smooth. It's very drapey. So yeah, I have been making some steady progress on these. I mostly have made this progress in the past week or so since I finished my spinning. But it's going much faster now, and I think I'll finish this up. I would like to finish this up pretty soon because it's now like fall time and I want to knit on fall things, but I don't want to leave these until next summer. Because I think they'll still be comfy for lounging even when it's cold outside. So yes, I'm like halfway up the body of the shorts. That's not really a body, but the midsection. I don't know what to call it, but yeah, I'm about halfway, and the rows are getting shorter and shorter, so it's going faster and faster. And the fit is nice. They're loose, but not too loose. I like kind of pulled them on the other day to see how they might fit. And they have a little bit of ease, but they're not like super huge. So yeah, they're going fine. I like the texture on them. It keeps them kind of interesting. It's just like a alternated pearl bump texture that's very cute. And mostly I'm just on a mission to finish these. So I haven't really made a ton of modifications besides adding one more repeat to the legs to make them just a little bit longer. And yeah, I'm just gonna continue going on these. Hopefully I'll finish them the next week or so that I can start knitting on some of my fall things. So yes, that's it for whips and acquisitions. I showed you both at the same time. Okay, so I'll talk to you a little bit about some plans and the knit along next. So if you were around last year, you know that in October, I ran just kind of a very small informal knit along that was mostly for me to keep accountability on some goals that I set, which was to fix some things with a few of my projects that were not quite right. Either the fit wasn't right or the length wasn't right. There were just a couple of things that I needed to modify to make pieces work a little bit better for me. And I called it the Fall Fix Along. And I want to do it again this year because I think as we're all thinking about like bringing out our sweaters and getting our fall wardrobes ready, a really big component of that is making sure that things fit the way that we like. And as knitters, we have the opportunity to modify our finished projects really easily. We can just kind of rip them out and fix them, or add length or take length out. And that's very important because we can so easily modify our clothes to fit better. So there are a couple things that I definitely want to fix, and I want to run this knit along through September and October so that we can get our fall wardrobes ready to go and be super excited for when the really cold weather hits. So fall fix along is for knits, it's for sewing projects, it's for anything that you want to fix just to work a little bit better for you, whether it's adding length or shortening things or redoing a neckline. I think it's important to just make sure that our clothes are working for us, and we spend so much time making these clothes that we want them to be right. So I have a few things that I'm going to show you that I want to fix. First is this blue sweater that I want to add a little bit of length to. Next up is my Marseille sweater, which I knit earlier this year and I do really, really like, but it grew a lot and now the sleeves are way, way, way too long. So I had just been rolling them up before, but I don't love the way that that looks. So my plan for this is to do the same thing that I did on the blue sweater, is to cut the cuffs off and kind of unravel probably back to just above this last stripe and then sew them back on so that the cuffs are a little bit shorter, or the arms are a little bit shorter, just like maybe that much shorter. That will make this fit a lot better. Other than that, I also probably need to add some elastic in the neckband, but I do really like this sweater a lot. I'm still very happy with it and I'm excited for it to finally be cold enough that I can wear it again. I put this sweater on the other day because we had our first like really lovely chilly day in Seattle a couple days ago, and I really like this sweater, but I felt like this is my moonset pullover that I made earlier this year. I think this was the first sweater I made this year. I made it back in January and February. I really like it, but I think it's a little bit too short, just because it's so oversized. I made this in a large. It has a lot of positive ease on me. And I think because of that positive ease, I just want it to be a little bit longer. And the other thing is that I forgot to go down a needle size when I did the I-cord bind off. And so it has a tendency to flip up, which I don't like. So I think I'm going to lengthen it just so that the body is about the same length as the sleeve. So maybe add an inch or two, and then redo the I-cord bind off. So that's my plan for this guy. I have plenty of yarn left over. And I think it'll just make it a little bit more comfortable and cozy. I just feel like if it's going to be oversized, it shouldn't be cropped, or it needs to be like obviously cropped. It's kind of in a weird in-between place that I don't love. And then the last thing is my Lou Genser, which is a pattern from Sundasgarn, and I knit this in the Hillesvåg unspun yarn. I made this last springtime, I want to say. And I do really like it, but I just feel like the sleeves are extremely wide. This is what I was talking about, is another Sundasgarn pattern that I just feel like the sleeves are super wide. My only concern is that this is unspun yarn, and I'm kind of scared of unraveling it because it's been wet blocked, obviously, and I'm worried that it's just not gonna work. So if you have ever unraveled a wet blocked unspun yarn project, please let me know if you were successful, because I really do like this sweater. I like the color, I like the yarn, it's super comfortable. It's not the most durable, it does pill quite a lot, but the sleeves are just like so wide. I want to taper them in a little bit. Like, honestly, I still want them to be big, but they like probably that much. There's just like a lot of extra fabric here that I don't feel like does a lot for me, and it's also a little bit cropped just because I was constrained on yarn. So yeah, that's my plan for this. I'm a little bit nervous about that one. I'm not nervous about the other ones. I think they'll be fine, but yeah, I'm a little nervous about this one just because of the qualities of the yarn. So if you've ever unraveled unspun, please let me know. I would love to hear your experience because I'm a little scared about how it's gonna go. So yes, those are my plans for things to fix. I just need to make some small tweaks. Each of those tweaks, fixing the sleeves on my Marseille sweater will take me one evening because I don't even have to knit anything. I just have to unravel and sew those cuffs back on. What's that sweater called? The moonset pullover might take me an evening or two just to knit that more length on the body and then do the I-cord bind off, so maybe 3 days. And then the sleeves on this sweater might also take me a couple of days to like very gently unravel and then re-knit. But overall, it's like a week's worth of knitting. It's not really a lot of time. So I don't feel like it would be too hard for me to do that or take a lot of time. And I don't have to do it all this month. I'm happy to do it next month as well and just kind of prepare my wardrobe for the fall season. I probably need to do some depilling and just like freshening everything up, getting it ready for another season's worth of wear. So I invite you to participate if you're interested, if you have some things that need to be fixed, but I think this is especially, I like that we have this time that we can all do this together, because it can be really hard to go back and revisit things that are finished, especially because there's so many new and fun, exciting things that we want to cast on. But if we want to get the best use out of our wardrobes and like really, we've invested so much time in these things already that a little bit more time would make it so much better. I think it's important that we continue to make sure that our clothes are working for us. So that's my intention with the fall fix along. If you'd like to join me, you're more than welcome. I'd love to have you. You can share on Instagram. It's very informal, casual adventure, but it's something that we can do together to kind of motivate ourselves to keep our wardrobes looking fresh and working for us. So yes, please join if you're interested. I would love to have you. All right, next up is just a couple of plans of things that I'm ready to cast on. Part of the reason I want to finish up those shorts so badly is because I don't want them lingering for months and months and months, and I want to cast on some fall things. So one of the things that I'm really excited to cast on is the Urban sweater by Catherine Viola Odegaard, which she's a lovely Norwegian designer, and I have her book Scandinavian Sweaters, and the Urban sweater is in that book. It's a really beautiful color work, all of her color work, 2-color color work sweater. And I'm gonna make it in this yarn, which is Cascade Aereo. I showed it to you a couple months ago when I bought it, but I'm gonna just use this kind of natural brown color and this natural white color from Cascade Aereo, which is a blown yarn. It's merino, alpaca, and nylon. It's so soft, and I'm really excited to get working with it. But I promised myself that I won't cast this on until I finish my shorts. So that's why I'm like in such a rush to finish my shorts, because 1, I want to do color work, and 2, this yarn is amazing and I'm really excited to work with it. So that's plan number 1. Plan number 2 is the Gia zipper sweater, which is another pattern from Sunnis Garn. And it's just a really cute half zip sweater. It has some kind of waist decreases that make it fit in a way that I don't think I love. So I'm gonna omit the waist decreases, but I'm really excited to have a really pretty half zip sweater. I feel like that's super versatile for all seasons. And I'm gonna use this yarn, which is Cascade 220 Heathers in the color Lake Chelan Heather, which I used last year to make the Vima sweater by Sari Nordland, and I just didn't end up wearing that sweater. I didn't love the fit of it on me. So I unraveled that sweater, and I'm gonna use this yarn for the Gia zipper sweater, which will be very fun. I think the collar construction will be really interesting, and I'm ready to cast that on as well. So yeah, the last thing that I wanna talk about is knitting needles. Because if you don't know, I'm a big Addi Click fan. Those are my interchangeable needles of choice. And I love them because they have a lifetime warranty. And over the last, probably the last year, I've had a couple of my cords break, which is not something I've experienced before, but the connector on the cable basically just snapped off of the plastic cable, and the little metal part that hooks into my needles snapped off. Which was a little bit annoying. And it was on my 2 longest cables. It was the same size cable, the 100 centimeter or 40-inch length, which is the size I need for knitting sweaters. So I have one more. I have 3 sets of cables in 3 different sizes. So I have 3 of the 16-inch cable, 3 of the 24-inch cable, and then 3 of the 40-inch cable. And the 2 40 inches were broken, which meant that I could only work on 1 sweater at a time, which that's probably a good thing. But nonetheless, I finally sent those broken cables back, and because they have a lifetime warranty, they replaced them for free. So they sent me 2 new 100 centimeter cables, which I now have. And these are the Rocket cables, or the blue Lifeline cords, I think. So I like these a lot. They're very durable. I love my Addi Clicks, and I love that if there's any issue, I can get them replaced. I've also gotten some needle tips replaced before from Skacel, and it was great. You just mail them your stuff. You have to pay for postage to mail it to them, but it's relatively inexpensive and it's cheaper than buying new needles. They sent me my new cords super quick. They're based in Seattle, so it was super fast for me I mailed that package or the letter off like on Tuesday and got my replacements on Friday. So super quick. But I would just highly recommend that if you are an Addi user and you have issues with your needles or your cords or anything, you can send them in for a replacement. So it's great. I love it. All right, that is it for today. It's a long one today. I haven't done a video this long in a while, and I hope that you all enjoyed it and that you are ready for fall. I hope it's turning to fall wherever you are. It's just started raining. I love it. I don't like summer. I don't enjoy it. I don't like dressing for summer. I don't like the heat. It's a lot of sunshine. Like, I don't like having to do a sunscreen and like protecting my skin. I find it very exhausting. And so I'm very happy that cozy season is coming back and fall is coming back, and I can just wear my sweaters again and be my true happy self. So yes, I hope that fall is coming and that you're excited for it wherever you are. My next video this month is gonna be fall fix-along focused. So stay tuned for the tutorial on how I fix my sleeves and graft my stuff and do sweater surgery. And feel free to join in if you're interested. So thank you all so much, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.